Welcome to the Pain, Performance, and Pohada podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Nick Smith. I'm a licensed physical therapist and strength and conditioning coach for Jiu Jitsu and other combat athletes. Today, I want to talk a little bit more about my business and what it is that I do specifically. Initially, when I started Smith Ford Strength Conditioning, it was just like an Instagram page for me to be able to post exercise tutorials. And during that time, I was working in an outpatient clinic, and the resources that were out there for posting different types of content or what was out there for exercise prescription was terrible. I'm trying to even remember the name of the website. It's one that all the outpatient places use, and it's terrible. Horrible pictures, exercises are done wrong. It was insane. So being able to have a little bit higher level exercises in there, some things I learned from residency and fellowship, I wanted to be able to post some of those and give some different options of things that I would actually give to my clients in person. And I just kind of used my Instagram as a ways of posting that. And that's how it all started. And now during this time, I was coaching people on the side throughout undergrad um, and PT school. I was coaching kids in BMX racing. I was doing a little bit of strength and conditioning for various athletes, but it wasn't anything super serious. It kind of progressed a little bit later during my second year of PT school. During my rotations, I ended up getting my board certified clinical, not board certified, my certified strength and conditioning specialist while I was in PT school because I wasn't studying for anything in class. And I was like, well, let's make my life harder and, study for something. And it just kind of gave me a little bit more, I guess, skin in the game to show people like, hey, I'm in PT school. I don't have my doctorate yet. I don't really have much to do with this, but I'm a strength and conditioning coach now, officially, according to the NSCA. So therefore, I'm valid. And at that time, still working with different BMX racers. And then as things kind of progressed, I had worked with various athletes in different sports, just kind of helping them out. Once I become a physical therapist, and working through the different jobs that I had, I eventually started my own jujitsu career, and I kind of started treating my teammates. I had been working with various high level athletes throughout the course of my career. So to be able to work with grapplers was a ton of fun. And I had worked with grapplers and MMA fighters like throughout my career as an aide, as a young physical therapist, but hadn't really done anything specific with them. I had a lot more experiences working with like NFL athletes. And at that time, the Smith Ford Strength and Conditioning Instagram page started to become more tailored towards jiu-jitsu and combat athletes. So, sometimes it wasn't really anything much different than, posting a different thumbnail or saying, hey, this is for jujitsu. There you go. But being able to see, like, hey, these exercises carry over into these different positions for jujitsu. And that's kind of how things grew in terms of the social media presence and how it kind of just progressed, so to say. As I started to work more with jujitsu athletes one on one, just doing more sessions, I then started working with Frank Benedetto at the Honey Badger Project and was able to create something very unique that went against everything that healthcare really pushes. Traditionally, with physical therapy, the way it works is, even though you can technically go to physical therapy without a referral. You have what they call direct access. A lot of insurances require that you have a doctor's prescription before you go see a physical therapist. So it's not really there. But basically, you go to your doctor, you get a referral, you get, hey, we want you to go to physical therapy. I'm going to allot you X number of visits, even though they have zero control over that because the insurance dictates that. Your insurance then gets to also dictate who you go to, where you go to. Are they within network? Are they not network, etc. You go to your physical therapy, your insurance might say, hey, you can get 12 visits. You get 2 times a week for 6 weeks. That's all you get. During that time, you show up, you go to physical therapy, you get some various modalities. Usually, you start off with maybe a hot pack, maybe you get to go on a bike. The physical therapist sees you for, 10, 15 minutes, maybe, depending on the place you're at. Then you do some exercises with some high school level tech or aide. Maybe they're an undergrad. They might have a bachelor's degree if you're lucky. They work you through some exercises that are hardly regressed. And then you get put on an ice pack, maybe some e-stem, maybe some ultrasound, depending on how ancient that clinic is. And then you get told to go away, and we'll see you in a couple days. No communication, nothing. And that's kind of how physical therapy works in the United States. And it's horrible. The system is terrible. There are obviously nuances to this in terms of what the patient is doing. Are they motivated? Do they want to get better? And then there's also the, hey, is your actual physical therapist competent to know what they're doing to be able to help you to be able to get better? So those are big playing factors. But assuming that the physical therapist is competent and assuming the patient, client, athlete is wanting to get better, motivated, willing to do everything that you say, things should work out pretty well. The problem is that's not life. And when it comes to highly specialized treatment, athletes, insurance will not approve visits up to a certain point. Basically, if you can walk and you can drive yourself to work, you can sit on the toilet, you can do your basic ADLs, you're good. You do not need physical therapy. And that becomes problematic if the sport that you absolutely adore and care about cannot be done. You're like, well, of course I can go to work. Of course I can sit on the toilet. I can get out of bed. I hurt, but I can do it. But you can't get on the mats. That's a problem. And this kind of turned into an opportunity to create something unique where I could treat through physical therapy, rehab, performance completely virtually if I wanted to. Having a background in movement science through my fellowship, I have a keen eye for being able to observe movement faults, things to look at, and then be able to run through an exam through Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, and be able to walk through an exam of what an athlete should be able to do, and based on those limitations, what exercises to give them, what cues to change, to be able to communicate that with them. So I don't even have to be in the room, and I can still help them. And I've created a system through coaching where I can do this type of coaching completely asynchronously if I want to. I have helped athletes post op, surgery, knees, shoulders, spinal fusions, uh, you name it. And then every injury you can think under the sun. And I've been able to work with people all over the world, sometimes different countries that are, very, 18 hours away. And it's been able to allow me to reach a larger audience and be able to help people who really love the sport of jiu-jitsu and other combat athletes, MMA, wrestling, Muay Thai, kickboxing, etc. And through that opportunity, this business has kind of flourished. It started off as a side hustle and it grew enough to where I was able to leave my, essentially my 9 to 5 and do this full time. Um, it's grown since then. It's evolved a ton since then. At first, it was just exclusively digital, with the exception of some in-person evaluations that I would do with my local, teammates. I'm sitting here right now inside of my gym. So instead of being digital, I'm now offering more of like hybrid services for local people. So if you're in the area, return visits, evaluations can be done in person, and then everything built out afterwards is asynchronous through an app that I run. The app that I have allows me to be able to communicate with my athletes literally every day if needed. It allows the athletes to be able to send videos over to me so I can review them for technique checks. And then there's also a lot of accountability and communication that's built into the system. So I can see when my athletes are doing their work. I can see when they've submitted things to me. I can give them feedback. They can let me know how things are going. I can make switches, adjustments on the fly. They never have to set aside time other than when they would already go to the gym to lift or go to jujitsu. And it's built out so it's completely unique. We can build out no matter if you're a working parent, if you're a full time competitor, or anything in between. it allows you to have a system built in where it's like, hey, this is where we're going to dedicate your time to be able to do your training. This is when you do your rehab. This is when you're going to do your strength conditioning. I want you to do this before training, after training. We talk about recovery, nutrition, sleep, everything. So rather than just having this kind of run of the mill, go into physical therapy, get some stuff, kind of go, you might get 10, 15 minutes with the physical therapist. You're exclusively with me. You get me all the time. If you come in for an in-person evaluation, you're getting 75 to 90 minutes with me exclusively. There's nobody else here but me. And it's something that doesn't exist. There's only a handful of us in the United States that offer this type of coaching where it's highly specialized to the grappler. And I mean, thankfully, there's more of us that are starting to go out there and change the world. But having something that's unique for grappling and combat athletes, um, it's starting to kind of pick up a little bit, thankfully. But this business allows me to take my skill set from what I've learned and accumulated over these last 10 years and be able to channel it with all the things I've worked with, working with the athletes at the highest level of every sport and making it really unique to jiu-jitsu. And I'm super fired up about it. You know, at one point I wanted to quit the whole profession. When I first started this journey as a physical therapist or wanting to be a physical therapist, I was super young, so over 20 years ago, and I was young, hungry, stoked, and that flame burnt out. I got burnt out super bad. Wanted to quit entirely. And, you know, Smith Forged and opening the Forge, my actual gym now, uh, I've been more fired up than ever. I love this community so much. I'm constantly trying to make this better, a better opportunity to serve this community in a way that allows them to be able to train for the rest of their lives. But it's kind of the origin story of Smith Forged, and you know, I look forward to seeing it evolve and grow. You know, every single person I work with offers incredible insight and ways to make this system better, to serve them better, and to be able to reach a larger audience of people who really need help. But I hope to kind of talk about some of those things more here on the podcast and hope you guys get to know a little bit more about my business and how I work with athletes. And maybe you're somebody who has been looking just for that. You know, you're like, man, I just never had a good physical therapy experience. It sucks. I hate it. I hear you. I do. And maybe you need something that's a little bit more specific to the needs of a grappler. You need somebody who knows what the hell half guard is. They need to know what delahiva is, how you hurt yourself, and to have a provider who doesn't tell you to quit. Do you have a provider, a coach that tells you to keep doing the sport, but knowing how to do it safely? Be able to get you back to the mats stronger than you ever were before. That sounds like you, somebody like yourself who needs that little bit more specificity. I want you to reach out to me. Check out the show notes. You can always contact me on Instagram at SmithForgedSC. Would love to be able to talk with you and point you in the right direction or even be your coach yourself. But until then, see you for the next episode. See you.